You ever feel like your own family's been writing a story about you, and you're not even in it? They told everyone I left, that I disappeared, that I didn't care. But they never said why. They didn't tell you about the tapes, or the forged will, or what my mother did after my father took his last breath. This isn't just about inheritance. This is about the truth they tried to bury with the man who raised me, and the fight to bring it back into the light. You'll hear what they never wanted anyone to hear. Before you dive in, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and drop a comment. I want to know what you would have done if it were your family. Let's begin. My name is Katherine Blake, though most people in uniform used to call me Blake. I'm 41 years old. I served 16 years in the U.S. Army, 2 deployments overseas, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. And now, back in my hometown of Beaumont, South Carolina, I'm standing outside my mother's porch, feeling more out of place than I ever did in a war zone. It smells like cut grass and cigarettes. My old truck ticks behind me as it cools, and the flag in front of the house is faded, not from time, but from apathy. The porch light flickers. Someone didn't change the bulb. Someone didn't care. I tighten my grip around the small wooden box I'm holding. My father's flag, folded into a triangle, its stars dulled by fingerprints. I don't go in right away. I stare at the door, the chipped paint, the dent near the handle where my brother once slammed it too hard after a football game. It all feels smaller now, shrinking. Just like the man who used to sit in the recliner by the window, who once saluted me when I surprised him by coming home early. My father. He's gone now. Buried last Tuesday, and no one told me until Friday. When I finally push open the door, I'm greeted not by warmth or condolences, but by the distinct silence of a house that's already moved on. Voices murmur from the kitchen, laughter actually. Someone's telling a story. I hear my brother's drawl, my cousin's too loud giggle. The television is on in the living room, volume low, some game show flashing across the screen. Not a single photo of Dad in uniform is visible, just pastel family portraits, the kind with fake smiles and Sunday clothes. I scan the mantel. Nothing. Even the old frame with me and Dad at Fort Bragg is missing. And then I see her, Dorothy Blake, my mother. Standing in the dining room, back straight, her gray hair pinned up, pearls at her neck like always. She's holding a wine glass and talking to Reverend Kane about renovations to the church roof. When her eyes meet mine, something flickers. Not grief, not surprise, just calculation. "You're late," she says. No hello, no hug. "Service was days ago." "I wasn't told," I reply. My voice is steady, but my pulse isn't. She tilts her head. "I told Trevor to call you." Trevor, of course. My older brother, who once told me over dinner that women in uniform look like they're trying too hard to be men. He's leaning against the counter now, holding a beer. He doesn't meet my eyes. Mom crosses the room and brushes a phantom speck off my shoulder. "You should have been here. He wanted everyone here, even you. Even me. Like I was the family dog who ran away and came back limping." I take a slow breath and step past her, walking into the living room. My boots echo slightly on the hardwood. Something's missing from the air. Dad's cologne, his laughter, the way he used to call me Cat, even after I made rank. I look at the coffee table and feel a knot in my throat. There's an envelope there with a red wax seal. Before I can ask, my cousin Ashley rushes over and picks it up. "Oh, that's just for the lawyer," she says too quickly. "Boring estate stuff." "The lawyer? Where's Dad's will?" I ask. Mom's voice cuts in sharp. "Handled, as it should be." I turn back to her. "I'd like to read it." There's a beat of silence. Then she says, "There's nothing for you in it, Katherine." The words drop like a stone in water. Every conversation in the room halts, sound sucked out of the air. I look at Trevor. He sips his beer, looks away again. He didn't mention me? I ask quietly. Mom's lips tighten. He made his wishes clear. You left this family. You didn't come back when he was sick. You missed birthdays? Holidays? I was serving, I say. I was in Kandahar. No one asked you to be a martyr. She snaps. The room watches in silence, unsure if this is a fight or just another awkward family moment. I put the flag on the mantel. There's a photo behind it. My brother holding up a trophy. All smiles. I don't belong here. Not to them. But I feel him. My father. I know he wouldn't have erased me. I know him better than they ever did. I step outside for air. The screen door groans shut behind me. The sun is low now, casting gold across the overgrown yard. I reach into my jacket pocket and pull out my phone, scrolling until I find the last voicemail from Dad. I listen. Kat, I'm proud of you. Always have been. They'll never get it. But I do. There's a box in the garage, under the blue tarp. Don't let your mother throw it out. My heart catches. A box. Something he left for me. I turn slowly toward the detached garage in the back, partly swallowed by vines and years. The side door creaks open with effort. Dust motes swirl in the last slant of sunlight. And there, under the blue tarp he mentioned, I see it. A wooden chest. Old, but solid. I crouch down, pull off the cover. The box is locked, but a familiar sticker peeks from the edge. An old army decal, faded but still there. Whatever is inside, it wasn't meant for anyone else. And for the first time in years, I feel a spark in my chest. Dad didn't forget me. He just left the truth where no one else could twist it. The lock was rusted, but not enough to stop me. I used the butt of my pocket knife to snap it loose. It came apart with a dry clink and a puff of dust. The hinges creaked as I lifted the lid. The smell hit me first. Old paper, cedar, and something faintly metallic, like coins left in the sun. Inside were neatly stacked files, an envelope with my name on it, and a leather-bound journal that had been scuffed with time. On top, folded like it had been placed there just before his death, was a black and white photo of me and Dad. I was 16, in my JROTC uniform, saluting crookedly. He was kneeling beside me, smiling with pride that was never shown to the rest of the world. My throat tightened. Underneath the photo was the envelope. My name written in my father's handwriting, strong, angled letters. Katherine, not Kat, not soldier, not daughter, just me. I opened it with shaking fingers. If you're reading this, it means they've already tried to cut you out. I'm sorry for that. I knew it would happen. Your mother never forgave you for becoming something she couldn't control. And Trevor, he never forgave you for being better than him. I left this for you, because the truth needs a place to live, and because you were always the only one strong enough to face it. I read the letter 3 times before I could move. Beneath it, inside a smaller box, were several cassette tapes, labeled with dates and titles, some as recent as a few months ago. Feb 4, meeting with lawyer. March 18th, Dorothy's request. April 10th, final thoughts. And one tape, circled in red ink, do not trust her. I didn't know what to think. What exactly had my mother done? What was on these tapes? Why would Dad go through the trouble of recording all of this? Unless he suspected that the people closest to him would rewrite his legacy the second he was gone. I tucked the letter and the tapes into my jacket and closed the box. I needed someone who could help me make sense of this. Someone who knew what it meant to be betrayed by people who were supposed to protect you. So I made the call. He picked up on the 3rd ring. I knew you'd call, Major, he said. Don't call me that, I said, almost smiling despite the storm in my chest. Still can't take a compliment, he said, and I could hear the grin in his voice. His name was Elijah Eli Harris, and the last time I'd seen him, we were pinned down behind a burned-out truck in northern Afghanistan, bleeding and laughing, the way soldiers sometimes do when they're not sure if the next second will be their last. I'd pulled him out when a sniper opened fire. He'd never forgotten it. "I need you in Beaumont," I told him. "Tonight. Tell me what's going on. There's a will, a fake one, or something close to it. My mother, she's hiding something. I found tapes, letters, stuff Dad left behind." There was a pause. "All right," he said. "I'm already on the road." I hung up and leaned against the garage wall, staring at the slanted shadows on the floor. Part of me wanted to go back inside and demand answers, but something told me it was smarter to wait, to gather every piece before I confronted her. That night, I stayed in a cheap motel on the edge of town. I listened to the first tape through a small handheld recorder that Eli once gave me as a joke. Said every soldier needed their own black box. I'd never used it. Until now. Dad's voice crackled alive, shaky but sharp. February 4th. Met with lawyer again today. He doesn't understand why I'm so concerned, but I see it. Dorothy's been going through the documents. She asked about the trust, the clause that gives Katherine the house. I told her I wasn't changing it. Her smile told me everything. There's a plan forming behind those eyes. I'm recording this in case something gets rewritten after I'm gone. I paused the tape, my fingers trembling. He knew. He knew she'd try to erase me. By the time Eli arrived just past midnight, I'd already gone through 3 more tapes and half a bottle of cheap whiskey. He walked in wearing a hoodie and carrying a laptop bag, taller than I remembered, with more gray at his temples. But his eyes were still the same, sharp, trustworthy, alive. He looked at the tapes on the table. "You weren't kidding," he said. "I never do." I handed him the letters. He skimmed them silently, then whistled low. "So your mother wanted you out of the will, but legally she couldn't remove you unless your dad agreed." "He didn't," I said. "He made that clear." "Then she needed someone else to sign off, or a way to override it." He opened his laptop and set up a small scanner. "We'll make digital copies of everything. Paper disappears, audio malfunctions. But data? That's forever." I watched him work, my heart tight in my chest. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting someone to knock, to burst in, to try and take this from me. "You think I'm being paranoid?" I asked. "No," he said. "I think you're late." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" He paused, tapping the table gently. "I ran a search before I got here. Your brother? He's already listed as sole inheritor of the Blake property. It's public record. The will was filed 2 days ago." My blood turned to ice. "But the funeral was 4 days ago." "Exactly. Your dad died. And 2 days later, a revised will was filed." I didn't speak. Didn't move. The rage that had lived quietly inside me for years was no longer quiet. It pressed against my ribs. It burned behind my eyes. They'd planned this. Long before Dad even passed. My mother. My brother. They buried the body, then rewrote the history. But Dad had left a trail. Tapes. Letters. Files. He hadn't gone quietly, and I wouldn't let them silence him now. Eli leaned back in the chair and looked at me carefully. "What are you going to do?" he asked. I stared at the last tape, the one in red, the one that said, "Do not trust her." "I'm going to finish listening," I said. "And then," I added, "I'm going to burn this whole lie to the ground." The motel room was silent except for the soft whir of Eli's scanner and the dry hum of the desk lamp. The tape recorder sat between us, its buttons worn smooth by time, and beside it, the red-labeled cassette. Neither of us touched it yet. Eli sipped his coffee and looked at me over the rim of the mug. You sure you're ready for that one? I wasn't. I nodded anyway. He pressed play. My father's voice came through slower than the others. Tired. Measured. Like he was choosing every word with the weight of someone who no longer trusted the air he breathed. April 10th. I think this might be the last one. My handwriting's gotten bad, and I don't think the pills are doing much anymore. But I want to be clear. I didn't change the will. I refused to. Dorothy brought me a version, said it would make things easier. Had my name on it all right. Forged in perfect cursive. Thing is, she forgot I taught high school English for 20 years. I know my own damn penmanship. She threatened me. Said if I didn't go along, she'd tell Katherine I did things I never did. That I hit her. That I drank. That I called my daughter a disgrace. I never said that. Never. I want you to know, Kat, if you're hearing this, you were never the mistake. You were the only thing I got right. My hand was clenched so tightly the edges of my fingernails bit into my skin. Eli leaned forward and paused the tape. She tried to blackmail him? He asked, incredulous. She knew no one would believe me if she started that story, I whispered. She's always been good at control, at making people feel small without ever raising her voice. But to go that far, she's always wanted Trevor to have the house, the money, the name. I shook my head slowly. Not because she loves him more, because he listens, because he plays along. I could still hear her voice from the living room that day. Even you. Even you, as if my existence was an inconvenience to the narrative she'd crafted. The perfect Southern family with a war hero husband, a quiet son, and a daughter that just disappeared. But I hadn't disappeared. Not yet. Eli and I finished cataloging the tapes, scanning Dad's journals, taking photos of the notes. At some point, it stopped feeling like a personal journey and started feeling like a case. I'd spent most of my career leading teams through dangerous terrain, navigating minefields, both literal and human. Now I had a new mission. The battlefield was my family. The next morning, we went to the county records office. Everything smelled like plastic and bureaucracy. The clerk, a bored-looking woman with a candy bowl and a fake smile, pulled the file when I gave my father's name. It was there. A will. Signed and notarized. Dated April 11th, one day after the tape Dad recorded. Can I get a certified copy? I asked. She handed me a form. $10. I paid in silence. In the car, Eli scanned the signature and pulled up a sample from one of the journal entries dated a few days earlier. Not even close, he muttered. What do we do with this? I asked. He looked at me like the answer was obvious. We show it to someone who has power. That night, we met Judge Harold Garrison, an old friend of my father's and a retired circuit judge known for being impossible to intimidate. He'd served with my dad during training in Texas and used to come over for bourbon and war movies when I was little. He met us at a small steakhouse just outside town. The place smelled like pepper and smoke, and he still wore suspenders and a wedding ring that had dulled with age. When I showed him the tapes, the signature, and Dad's letter, he didn't say anything for a long time. Then he took off his glasses, folded his hands, and looked at me with heavy eyes. I knew she was ambitious, he said finally. Didn't know she'd stoop to forgery or blackmail. He agreed to help, quietly, legally. No explosions, not yet. First, we needed to catch them in their lie, and that opportunity came faster than expected. 2 days later, my mother invited the entire family back to the house for what she called a reading of final arrangements. She didn't call me directly. She sent a text. Cold, formal. No punctuation. Reading will Sunday 5 p.m. house. I showed Eli the message. They think it's over, he said. They think they've won. We arrived early. The house was already full of voices, clinking glasses, fake smiles. I watched my brother shaking hands with someone from the town council. My cousin Ashley was taking photos by the fireplace like this was a reunion, not a funeral. I stood in the hallway watching them. These people who had forgotten who built this house with his bare hands, who wore the flag now folded in my bag, who'd rather erase him than face what he really stood for. Then she came out. Dorothy Blake. My mother wore black, but there was nothing somber about her expression. She moved like a politician, graceful and in control. When she saw me, her smile faltered for half a second, just long enough. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said. "You invited me," I replied. "I thought you might be too busy investigating ghosts." She always had a talent for sounding innocent while implying madness. "I think Dad would have wanted me here," I said. "Did he tell you that? In a dream?" It was then that I realized she really believed she'd buried the truth, that I had nothing left. I didn't answer. I just looked past her, to the corner where Eli was standing with a black briefcase and a small portable speaker. We were ready. Just not tonight. Not yet. She didn't know we had the real will, or the real voice, or a witness with connections to the Bar Association. She didn't know we'd already found her notary, and that she had confessed to notarizing a signature without my father present. What my mother thought was the final chapter was barely the second act. I stepped past her and entered the room where the reading would take place. Everyone quieted, glasses lowered, eyes turned. Trevor stood near the fireplace holding a folder. He looked proud, comfortable, like he'd earned the moment. He didn't notice the audio recorder in my pocket, or the flash drive in Eli's coat, or the storm that was about to crack this facade wide open. The room was too quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't belong at family gatherings, the kind that creeps into church basements before confessions, or hospital waiting rooms before bad news. It was the hush of people pretending they weren't holding their breath. My mother stood at the head of the room, her hand resting lightly on the mantel like it belonged to her. Her voice was smooth as she opened the folder. "Franklin's last instructions were clear," she said. "He wanted everything handled discreetly. No lawyers, no drama. A lie. He wanted truth." She was about to serve up theater. Trevor stepped forward and began reading from the document, the forged will. I watched the words slide out of his mouth like they were rehearsed. Property and contents of the Blake residence to be transferred to Trevor Blake. All savings and life insurance to be distributed evenly among surviving family, excluding Katherine Blake. He stopped. The silence wasn't silent anymore. It was jagged. It crackled with the unspoken. He glanced up at me, just for a second. That's when he knew something had shifted. That's when Eli pressed play. A sharp click from the speaker on the table. Then my father's voice, raw and clear, filled the room. "If you're hearing this, it means someone tried to lie in my name." Heads turned. Breaths caught. Wine glasses froze in midair. "I did not change my will. I did not authorize a new one. I did not leave my daughter out. Katherine is to inherit the house, the service medals, the journals, the legacy. Dorothy, if you're in the room, I know what you did. And I know why." My mother's eyes widened. Her spine stiffened. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Eli stepped beside me, holding the folder we'd prepared. A certified copy of the original will, notarized months earlier, attached to an affidavit from the notary who'd refused to lie. I took it from him and walked forward. My boots echoed off the hardwood like gunfire in a canyon. "For the record," I said, voice calm, "this is the real will. It's been verified by Judge Harold Garrison and submitted to probate court as of this morning." I handed it to Ashley, who sat stunned in the corner, scrolling something on her phone. She took it, blinking, unsure whose side she was supposed to be on now. Trevor stepped back like I'd just struck him. No, wait. This isn't. My eyes locked on his. How long were you in on it? He swallowed. His hands trembled. Did you know about the tapes? I asked. Nothing. Did you know she forged his signature? Still silence. You think wearing his watch makes you a man like him? That one hit. He looked away. I turned to my mother. Her mask had cracked. She looked older now. Smaller. The pearls around her neck seemed too tight, her posture slightly slumped. But her voice still reached for control. You think this makes you noble? She asked. Dragging your family through court, humiliating your brother. I didn't do this to humiliate him, I said. I did it because Dad asked me to. She flinched. You always resented me, I added. For leaving, for choosing something bigger than this house, this town, your version of control. I wanted to protect what was ours. No, I said, stepping closer. You wanted to own it. You wanted to rewrite his memory so it looked the way you needed it to. But he wasn't yours to rewrite. I reached into my pocket and placed a single cassette on the mantel beside her, the one labeled April 10th, Final Thoughts. He left that for you. Her hand moved toward it but stopped short. Her face twisted, not with grief, but with something more dangerous. Power slipping through her fingers. She said nothing. The family murmured. Cousins shifted in chairs. Someone whispered my name. But I didn't care. I turned and walked out. The air outside was warm. Evening light spilled across the yard like melted gold. It smelled like honeysuckle and old wood, the way summers used to smell before everything went wrong. Eli followed, the briefcase under one arm. You all right? He asked. I didn't answer right away. I looked back at the house, the place I was once ashamed to call home, the place I had returned to, not to reclaim, but to set right. She won't go quietly, Eli said. She doesn't have to, I replied. She just has to lose. We drove in silence for a while, heading back toward the edge of town where the trees grew thicker and the roads turned to gravel. The stars were just beginning to appear. I asked him to pull over when we passed the Veterans Park. There, under the flagpole, I opened my father's journal. On the first page, he'd written, Legacy isn't about who remembers your name. It's about what they remember you stood for. I stood in the field for a long time, the journal in my hands, the wind soft against my skin. No war zone, no shouting, no uniforms, just peace. Real, earned peace. Behind me, Eli stood quiet, letting me have the moment. I didn't cry. Not out of pride, but because I finally didn't need to. My father knew me, believed in me, trusted me enough to leave behind the truth. They tried to bury me with him, but all they did was plant a flag, and now everyone could see where it stood.